All right, we are live. Yay! Welcome back to another week here at Wired Differently. We've got me, Christina Hooper, your business designer, Victoria Caldwell, your beautiful fractional COO over here rocking this red lip and this purple hijab. I am here for it today. And Mindset Melanie Branch looking fantabulous as always with all of the everything. Like her makeup, I aspire to. I was like, I've got more color on my eyes since meeting Melanie, but I still don't have the lash game down and the eyebrow game down that she's got going. So
I didn't even try.
Yep. And that's not to mention her professional accomplishments as the mindset coach to the entire academy and me and all of her clients. And that is a very big responsibility. So welcome to everybody here. All right, guys, this week's topic is scaling your business with a COO. So like we did to me and to Melanie over the last couple of weeks, we're going to kick this one off by having me and Melanie explain what we think it means to have a COO helping with your people systems in your business. So Melanie, what do you think?
I think it's one of the most difficult things for a business owner to do, because when you start your business, you typically have this vision of being in the day-to-day and what it's going to look like and who you're going to help, especially as a service provider, who you're going to help and how you're going to help them and how you're going to show and share your genius to the entire world. And then to realize, hey, we've gotten to a point now where I'm the one that's getting in the way of our growth, and I need somebody to come in and do the parts that I'm not good at, like managing the people, hiring the people, being other people's genius, and understanding what you want to continue doing in your business and what you want to really contract out or hire and have employees for.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you from personal experience over 17, 18 years in business now, how many millions of dollars I have wasted in staffing, right? Wasted because like I didn't know what I was doing. I was hiring the wrong people. I wasn't managing them the right way. I wasn't setting their salaries the right way. I wasn't getting return on investment from my employees. Like we think about investing in masterminds and things like that, like $20,000, $40,000 mastermind certifications. We think about those investments, but employees are the most expensive investment you're ever going to make. And one of the riskiest, right? I mean, like if you get your employee, your staffing stuff wrong, if you hire the wrong people, if you don't support the right people, right? So like if you have people that are amazing and you don't support them the right way, they can turn out to become some of your biggest competitors. They can go launch businesses that compete with you. They can go to work for your competitors and take a lot of your stuff. So people who are scared of your competitors, you don't want to lose employees to them because you didn't do it right, right? They learned your stuff. So there's a lot of different things that can go wrong when you hire people. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you don't put the time into it, if you don't put the same passion into your people that you put into your clients, into your business, into yourself, then it's not going to work out well for you. Speaking from experience, right? Even when I put like, I went, what about 2 years ago? I think it was at this point, 2-3 years ago, and got a loan and everything. Cause I was like, I could solve the scale problem by hiring people, right? I just need the money to hire the people with. We'll just get a loan. We'll pay them all. We'll have all the best paid people. We'll be able to fund them for like at the first year. It'll be great. $500,000 later. No, nothing to show for it, right? Your people systems are important.
They don't just lead themselves.
Hello.
Man, wouldn't that be nice? That's what we want them to do, though, isn't it? We want those self-starters, those driven, self-motivated employees. That's what we mean, right? When we say we're looking for self-motivated employees, what we want
little you.
Yeah, is what Melanie just said. Right? We want them to lead themselves and manage themselves. And that's not realistic. That doesn't make any sense.
It's not even actually desirable.
Yeah.
It's you think it is, but then you get those people and then you realize that there are many yous and they're just sometimes unhinged and they go off and do whatever they want. And you're like, wait, what are you doing? Yeah. You know, because now they're over there doing all of this stuff. They might be, and then they got the same weaknesses that you have.
Yep.
And so the stuff still is not getting done because they don't want to do it any more than you do.
Yeah.
Oh, that is such a big one, hiring somebody who's like you, because that's what we think, right? That we're only going to grow by cloning ourselves because we're the best person to do every job.
Right.
So the only way we can scale is to clone ourselves. So we go try and hire ourselves. That's not what we need. We need somebody who has the time, energy, and dedication to get better at something than we are. Because a lot of us are multi-talented, right? Like we're good at a lot of different things. Like I can design logos and I can write content and I can build websites and like there's so many things that I can do. And so I have all of this knowledge, and when somebody else doesn't have the same knowledge as me, I just feel like they don't know what they're doing and I have to take over.
Right.
Right. And that's not what we want. Imagine, like, to me it felt like this. It's like, has everybody played that game, Capture the Flag, or has at least heard of it, right? Like you have two different teams, there's like a flag, and it's like you and your competitors, and you're both trying to get that flag before each other, right? That's the client you're fighting over. If you have a bunch of leaders on your team and there's no leader stepping up, everybody has a different plan for how we're going to get the flag.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you think because you've stepped up and you've said, I'm the leader, I crown myself, this is the plan, that's going to be enough. And it's not enough when you have a team of people like you who are all leaders, who are all thinking that they have the best strategy. And they're going to be like, I don't really agree with her. I'm going to go do this because I think it'll work better. When we get the flag, she'll agree with me. I'm going to ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now at the end of the day, the competitor who was a leader and who did get their team organized got the flag.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, this is a heavy topic, and just for those, whether you're starting out and whether you're at the CEO level and you're running a company with hundreds of employees, this particular issue is the top challenge. So I don't want you, it's at the early stages, you may think you can debunk this problems, but if you're trying to grow and make the impact and make the income, and that's not for, not everybody's trying to do that, but for us at the Academy, we're really nurturing and helping those who want to make that massive impact because they have a bigger vision and a bigger purpose. So you're coming here and you can't do it alone, and you shouldn't do it alone. You shouldn't do it alone because part of that impact is the leadership.
Yeah.
Part of what you're teaching is how to lead and developing leaders. And the top CEO challenge for years have been the people. It's always been in the top 3, usually the top 1, not the money, not the technology, the people, whether it's hiring the people, retaining, because some of them can get them, but they can't keep them.
Yeah.
So they get the people, and this is a survey with Gallup, and it's still going on. Well, I mean, still going on, but this survey with Gallup is, the stats on that is out of every 10 employees, 70% of those employees are disengaged. Only 30% of the employees typically are engaged at work. And you might say, what does that mean? That means 70% of your people are only showing up for the check.
Yeah.
They're showing up, they're given the bare minimum. And a lot of times they're given the bare minimum because they feel like they're getting the bare minimum from you as a leader, not you, but from the company. They feel like this company does not care about me. So you give me the bare minimum, I'm giving you the bare minimum. And then 17% of those, so let's say roughly 2 out of those are actively disengaged, meaning they're actively doing things to sabotage the company.
Yeah.
And you're paying them to sabotage you.
And, culture really comes into play when we think about what's going to retain people and what's going to make people really happy. And culture really starts from the moment you start your company and it's just you.
Exactly. And that's what, we talk about in the Academy, because a lot of...
I didn't see you post that until... Did you post that because I said it, or did that...
Yeah, we already had that question queued up. Yeah.
And it's really because, when we talk about it, part of the framework that I am working on is the flow plan. And it's the people, the environment, and the processes, and it goes from there. But the environment is critical, but you set that environment when it's even just you.
Yeah.
And you will see what it's like really when you get that first employee, because then you'll realize what kind of leader you are. But you might have it in your mind that what kind of leader am I? You might think that you're one type of leader until you get an employee, because you don't know. It's like being a parent. You don't know what kind of parent you are until you become a parent. You don't know what kind of spouse you're going to be until you become a spouse, but you can actually sit down, and one of my first activities is looking at what type of leader do you aspire to be? What do you want your employees to say about you? What do you want the environment of people working with you to be like? And what are you going to do to actively make sure that you put these, because the environment is your responsibility, because you can control that.
Yeah.
And no one thinks about it.
Yeah.
Because you get these and they go through, I mean, going through employees like this, and it's like, oh, I can't find good people. These people don't know what they're doing. Oh, and it's always the employees. But when you have a churn that high, when you're burning through employees, it's most likely a leadership issue.
Yeah.
Not depending whether it's you as the leader or if it's the leaders that you have employed. Because sometimes you have a great CEO and then the middle managers or whatever are just horrible, or because they've hired the wrong person for those positions, just to put it mildly. So the coach, it's what does a company culture, what role does it play? I think it's probably at least 95%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foundational.
It's foundational. It's critical, because a person can be in flow and love what they do and hate their work place.
Yeah.
And
There's a saying that said, oh God, it's about a toxic workplace, and it's a toxic environment is way more likely to change you than you are to change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've talked about that a few times, like employees that are so used to a toxic environment that they kind of don't know how to respond when they're in a good one.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I had this in one of my assignments, because I'm usually contracting, so I'm not typically a long-term, with being fractional, right? So I worked, it was so eye-opening, this company. They had all A players, all loyal, all passionate employees, all dedicated, loved the company mission. They would work their fingers to the bone, and did. But the workplace was intoxicated. And it wasn't because the leader didn't care. The leader just did not know how to lead people, because she was leading like she leads herself.
Yeah.
Running, it was like a bull in a china shop, running all over them, thinking, what you mentioned. And, they should be able to do all of this stuff. And, like I said, creators have no gauge on how much time, energy, and resources stuff takes. So if you're thinking that your employees can do what you do, you put too much on them. And I learned in that environment, I learned more from you, Christina, and even in that environment, is that it doesn't mean that they don't care. Some of them don't. Some leaders just don't care. Now, when they don't care, you hear it, you see it, you feel it. Some leaders care. They just are totally clueless as to the fact that they're the bull in the china shop, that they're running over. They have too high expectations. They expect the team to operate the way they do and at the level that they do and the way that they do.
Yeah. And you both helped me with that, right? Because I think something that you just said that was really good was that we have these expectations for ourselves, and we tend to try and put those onto our employees. If I can do all of this, my employees ought to be able to do at least half, right? Like at least half. Melanie's the one who woke me up to one side of that, which is I shouldn't be expecting myself to do the 100% that I'm doing, right? So like I set my bar so high, and until I learn to take care of myself, I'm not going to be able to put that same standard down to my employees, where I'm like, hey, whoa, you're burning yourself out on this project. Step back, take a day or two off. This job's not that important. Like, until you can do that for yourself, it's kind of hard to do it for other people, to set a standard for quality of life for them that is so much better than the one you've set for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And then like
Exactly.
one of the things that you've really helped me understand, Victoria, too, is that we really, and I know this is going to sound so bad, and I don't know if it's because I'm neurodivergent or what, but like we really have to look at each individual employee as a individual human, right? We can set policies that apply to how we treat the staff in general. We can set culture for how we treat the staff in general, but each human is a unique human being. And if my goal is to set them up for success in my company so that they're happy and they're healthy and they're doing what I have to look at them. I have to be willing to adjust or tweak some of my policies, some of my procedures, because this human needs something a little bit different in order to thrive. Yeah. And it's tricky, yes. Right? Because you're managing lots of clients, you're managing all of your company, you're managing all this operational stuff. And now you also have to babysit, as I know the wrong term, but it kind of feels like that, especially when you have a new employee. And you have to make sure that like they know how to navigate their way around the house, right? They can find the dishes, they can find the cups, they feel comfortable enough grabbing a snack, right? Like you are kind of babysitting them for a little while. You have to find the energy to do that. Yeah. You have a full-time toddler in your business that you need to oversee for a bit while they learn the rules of the house.
Right.
You know? And it's exactly. You have to, though. You just have to. So I think I've learned both of those lessons from you guys that really, I mean, we have to get rid of capitalism. We have to get rid of a lot of the negative things that we were taught and be open to maybe running our businesses a little bit different, right? Because all of that toxic exposure that we had in the workforce that made us leave and become entrepreneurs is not the standard we need to carry into our business.
I know we all have in our brain. If you got time to lean, you got time to clean. That has been the hardest thing to deconstruct. As somebody who was in the service industry, I was in restaurants for fucking 15 years. And if I wasn't in restaurants, I was in property management in apartments where everybody's problem was a major problem. My AC's out, my roof's leaking, my this is this, my this is this. At least at a restaurant, I just got to get your fucking steak order right. You know, like, here we go. We're not saving lives here. But when you really think about it and this is something all my clients deal with, they're like, if my kitchen isn't spotless and I can't sit down in my office because I can see a corner of my kitchen from my office when the door is open, and then I just can't get anything done here. So then this is what I have to listen. Not every space and moment needs to be filled with your productivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, it is productive when you're resting. Melanie taught me that. Rest is productive. Rest is required. Like, you have to sleep. Why would you think that, you know, our body requires downtime? Requires it. It's biologically built in. You will sleep. Why do we think that's the only rest we need?
It's really you know what I learn a lot from my clients. And part of it is, like I said, some of them have the best of intentions.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't know. And that's a positive part for the leaders, is because when you're talking about our strengths, our weaknesses, our gifts, a lot of times you got gifts in one area, but seeing the people and the human side of things is not one of them.
Yeah.
So you need someone, and we were talking about the title with a COO, especially one that is really good with the people systems. And is going to advocate. They're going to become that buffer. They're going to advocate for the team, manage you, but also help you see those blind spots. You know, they're going to help you see those blind spots to be like, okay, you might be doing a little bit too much over here. That's if you care, you know, that's if you care. And you do realize you don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think that is the thing, because in an organization, there's two leaders. Now, you might have to grow to that point to where you can afford to bring that person on, but there's two leaders, one that leads the vision in the company itself. That's you usually. And then one that manages the execution and the day-to-day and the people.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do all of that.
Yeah. You shouldn't try to do all of that. From experience, it goes bad for most people.
It goes left. Real, most people. And that's the highlight of it, because there are people like me who actually enjoy that side. It drains the hell out of my clients. You know, it sucks the life out of them. It's boring. Oh, and that's the favorite word, boring, but that's stuff that lights me up because I love to see people thriving. I love to see people in their element. I love to see people in their zone going to this question here. And how do you ensure that both entrepreneurs and employees maintain a flow state? Well, first of all, creating, knowing what your flow state is and what takes you in flow and out of flow.
You want to explain what flow is?
Let's define what flow is. Flow is flow state is that state where it's a mental state, but when you're so engrossed in an activity because you're really enjoying it, you can be defined as being in the zone or in your element. And when you're in the state of
hyperfocus is another one that we'll see, like, especially
you're
neurodivergence.
really engaged. You're loving what you're doing. You just lit up. I see it happening to you all the time. And I in the, not just the academy, but especially in the workshop, because when there's a problem that you can solve, you see all of the lights, you become instantly magnetic when you're in flow.
Yeah.
You just, that energy just permeates. And another way people describe it is being in the zone. You see it in athletes, you see it in singers when they get on stage, and off stage, they were kind of like, oh, but when they're in front of an audience or something, it's just there, and you become magnetic. And then you look at your team and you get the owner there, and you just get to create, and because what is your quicksand is somebody else's flow.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's flow. You might not, you're like, who wants to do this? I hate it. But somebody else is going to love it because they don't want to do what you want to do.
You see that with the three of us already. It's like managing the people and all the people systems. Like I'm a business designer. I like designing the business. The business includes people stuff. I don't want to touch it. It takes me out of flow. It's not my happy place. I don't want to deal with people systems. I don't want to deal with mindset. Melanie loves mindset. Like you're seeing that with the three of us, like right here on, we found our flow.
You can see it just with our website. So Christina is aces at putting it together. I'm really good at talking to people once they get there and getting people there. And Victoria is the one that can check and make sure all the fucking links are working. I would never, ever, ever be able to go through and click everything and make sure everything's working. There's no way my brain will let me do that. But as soon as somebody starts messaging us, or as soon as we need traffic to the site, hi, here I am. I don't even need to put eyebrows on. Where you want me? Who am I talking to? Right? So it's so important to recognize that too, because if it were any other way, it wouldn't get done.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't mind like talking to the people, working with the team. One of the girls told me in one of my more recent assignments, she said she had never, matter of fact, she told me, this blew my mind. She said, I used to think that being a leader meant you had to crack the whip over your team.
Oh,
that struck me like an arrow in the heart. She said, I thought that's what being in that environment is what she thought it was supposed to be, until she worked with me and realized she could be happy. She could thrive. She was in flow that she had never been in. She wasn't stressed. She was more productive. She was happy. And she was like, this is fascinating. Like, I didn't know that I could have a leader or a manager that actually cared enough to sit with me and help me grow. Yeah. And I'm like, I enjoy it because I love to see and eventually you're going to be on your own, and then you're going to take the lead, and then you're going to be teaching and everything. I don't have to do it forever.
Yeah.
I just spend the time up front, and then they fly because now they know what it feels like. They know that I care, and I want them to thrive as an individual. I care about their family and how they show up for their families.
Yeah. I love, like, when you talk about the people that you've worked with on other people's teams, you immediately start sharing these details about like their family life and like that they have kids, and if they have, like, I've had people working for me, I didn't even know if they were married. I just didn't think to have those conversations. It just didn't. And again, part of it may be the autism and the ADHD, and like, I'm here to work. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to, So like I was trying to be the good boss. And to me, that meant this is work. Personal life is personal life. This is work. We're not going to be friends. We're going to be coworkers, and we're going to get this done. Right. So I was trying to turn off more of the, like, I don't know, it's kind of like a toxic swinging a little too far, maybe.
Yeah.
To try and be like, you have a personal life. This is your job. It's okay to be here for the paycheck and then leave, and not do the whole toxic, we're a family here. And if you have a family, your personal life is more important than your work. Like, I get that, so to me, I was like trying to be better, but I kind of swung too far and
black and white
cut out
thinking.
the humanity. Yeah. It was like, now there's no humanity in how I'm running the business, and it's boring and dry and sterile, and you're here for a paycheck.
Yeah.
I was thinking you could have better productivity. Yeah.
And that's what I learned. And I was like, Christina cares.
Yeah.
She genuinely cares. Like, she's genuinely, and even then you come up with this bright idea that, no, this is how this is. This is my way of showing care.
Yeah.
And it just, is probably not the best way to approach it.
I mean, when we hop on campus to body double together, the first 15 minutes is just how's life? How's your world? What's going on? La, 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 la. And then naturally we're like, okay, what are we working on? And we can just start going through all the motions. But if we don't get that personal stuff out of the way, then we don't really even know when to begin. Because it is so important. You're working from home. I'm working from home. I used to have to leave every day and go to a restaurant. Now my dogs I'm cooking my dog's meal. Every 3 days, I cook my dog's dog food. I make their treats. I do all that shit. It's a totally different life. They're very strong manifestors, those two. I've never before in my life. I think my dogs created the pandemic just so that I would start being home. Anyways, it's fine. But we start to notice what's important in each other's lives. I had no idea going in to start my own business in 2020 that I was going to be making dog food so they don't eat kibble anymore. But now it's one of the most important, pillars in my life, is that I get to make their food and infuse it with good energy so that they live forever with me. Very important. So when we talk about our realities, those are all different, but it's not any less valid.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, your employees start sharing some of those stories. Like, we've even seen this just with students on campus. Like, they start sharing those stories, those tips, the advice that helps them be better at their businesses, at their jobs, at their whatever, your people are dealing with. But I think I queued up this next question because we were kind of dancing around it a little bit, like common pitfalls in traditional business operations, operating systems that we want to avoid. We're kind of dancing around it a little bit because we're talking about different ways that even trying to do good shows up toxic, right? We talked about the whip cracking, that's what being a leader means, is you have to like enforce the rules. And I've seen this in operating systems. It's one of the things, like, I studied operating systems extensively because I was struggling with it right before I met Victoria. So like, I've gone through, I don't know how many thousands of dollars of trainings in operating systems. And the biggest thing that's missing in all of them is humanity. Humanity. Because like, they'll have systems for how do you punish an employee who's not performing well, right? We call them performance improvement plans, quote unquote. Listening to audio. Right. And it's like, it tells you you're screwing up. So we're doing like quarterly employee evaluations. We're talking about how we tie how much money they make to how productive they are. There's like all of that stuff. None of it is dealing with the fact that these are actual humans.
Yeah.
And like, we don't want to just do performance improvement plans when they screw up. How about let's like proactively make a plan for helping them not screw up in the first place? That's not in any of them.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some other ways, Victoria, that like, let's help people really visualize what running a healthy team looks like? Right. And what are some of the other things that show up?
We were dancing around it, and it is basically engaging with your team. It's having conversations with the team, hiring people who actually care. And part of that is, let's say when it comes to operating systems, a lot of times, this is what we see with leaders, they make decisions at the top without considering the people who are actually going to be using the programs to begin with.
Yeah.
So they'll go in and first of all, if they have any operating systems, that's number one.
Google Doc.
Make a Google Doc. Write it down.
It could be as simple as a Google Docs. I don't know how many Google Docs we have just for the Academy alone. Like
So
I'm
many.
swimming in Google Docs. But here's the thing. No operating systems coming in. That's problem number one. No hiring system, no systems, just flying by the seat of their pants and wondering why things are not. I went to a tire shop the other day. Oh, I didn't. And the girl was like, bear with me. She said, I just got hired. I just got hired, and she didn't know how to do certain things. They were running a special, and no one in the organization knew how to give the special that was on the billboard outside. No one, it's a simple sale.
Yeah.
There were 4 other tire shops within less than a mile. She said, I'm sorry. I said, there's 5 of you in here. None of you know how to do that? And they were like, no.
Yeah.
The person that is doing it, he'll be back on Monday. Okay, it's a Saturday. I call back Monday. There's more employees there, but there's just more people who don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting, I said, fascinating. I said, so no one in here knows. She said, well, I just got hired last week. She said, please, I'm so sorry. They were so friendly, so accommodating, but they were not helpful.
Yeah.
Of course, I went and got my tire somewhere else. And I said, is that person the owner? She was like, no. She said, they just told me they just put me out here and threw me to the wolves, really. They told me to just figure it out. And then the guy in the back was like, yeah, that's pretty much how they do it here. And I said, so you got no onboarding? And she said, no, they just told me to figure it out. But they're hiring a new manager. Your employees will tell on you, right? But they're hiring a new manager and that person is getting 5 weeks of onboarding. And I'm like, a new manager with only 5 weeks of onboarding. And then the other guy is like, oh, and that's because we kept losing managers.
Yeah.
And they're probably not even aware that that's the problem. Like every time I hear like employee horror stories, I'm immediately imagining what the business owner is experiencing in this scenario. And the person who owns the business obviously isn't even there, right? So they don't see all of these conversations. They don't see that Victoria went to another tire shop because the employee couldn't answer a basic question, couldn't do a basic step.
Yeah.
Right. Like they don't see that. They see that their revenue is being impacted. Yeah. And their revenue got impacted after they hired these new people and lost these other people. So they're not even going to attribute all of these problems, this cascade of problems, to a lack of employee onboarding.
Because you know what caused that problem? Spending more money on marketing and that billboard than on training the employees.
Yeah.
And that leads to the next thing. Me and Christina are both in the marketing world. At least we came from there, and I'm still pretty much there. And you get hired to grow the company and increase sales because that is what everyone thinks the problem is. But because I work so deeply with the teams, because that's my specialty, I started seeing all of the problems. And I'm like, you don't have a marketing sales problem. You got people problems, you got operational problems, you got a whole bunch of other things that's really keeping this organization stuck. My challenge, which kind of led me into this role, because in order to fully help, I had to say, this is not what's holding you back. And if I'm going to truly help you get to this level, you have to address the issues that are really holding you back. You got people who are just waiting. Like you got people here who will jump ship the second they find another opportunity. Some of the people here, they're good people. They're great people. They either don't have the environment to help them thrive, or they're in the wrong roles, which is part of the other, which is part of number one anyway.
Yeah.
Or they're just in an environment that's chaotic. Like they got to figure it out. And so everyone starts creating their own rules and their own processes for how they do things that works for their brain. But then the next person comes in and it's like, well, how did we get that done before? Oh, so-and-so did, but they're gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they
so
took the SOP with them.
and it's stressful.
Yeah.
And they start looking, it's like, and there was another stat, I should have brought it, but like within 90 days, new employees are already looking for a new job.
Oh, yeah.
They're looking for, because you might sound good up front, and then you get in and it's like, this is a hot mess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know like that's another example of like employees jump ship a lot of times because they want more money or they want more like time freedom, right? Like, so you're infringing upon their personal life and they are claiming it back, right? Those are two of the biggest reasons somebody will look for another job: more money, more time freedom, right? And a lot of times we don't realize as entrepreneurs, nobody told us that the cost of living increases an average of 2.8% every single year. So like when you're looking at traditional operating systems, they tell you that you should be doing raises based on performance or annual raises or like a profit sharing or like they tell you all these things. What they don't tell you is cost of living goes up 2.8% every year. So at bare minimum, every employee gets a 2.8% raise every year. Every year. That's not connected to performance. That's so that your pay stays competitive so that they don't jump ship just to go with somebody else who just created this position and is basing it on what the current market is paying. Right? So nobody told us we had to do that. Nobody told us we had to look at jobs change in value. I still remember I learned that about 5 or 6 years ago. I've been in business for 17 years. I only learned that about 5 or 6 years ago, that a job changes in value. So like if you have a social media marketer right now on your team, if that job becomes more valuable because there's less social media marketers in the world and the demand increases or whatever changes, that social media is the thing. New social media managers are getting paid $10,000 more, $20,000 more than they used to be last year. You have to evaluate those things, right? So like we talked about earlier, it might not be that you're being malicious and trying not to pay your employees. It's just literally nobody told you
right
that you have to increase pay because of cost of living or because the job description is worth more now, right? Like there's some things we just don't know. So I love whenever there's like an employee horror story, I love trying to imagine what the business owners were going through, right? Like what caused it.
Yeah. And
there's one thing that's
go ahead, Melanie.
There's just a saying that's really relevant from all perspectives, and it's that unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments.
I knew you were going to come with the writer downer. I knew it.
I already wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it.
Oh, we have a troll that apparently is obsessed with Melanie.
Oh, I just looked at that and it was just like, what in the heck?
Yeah, he's just apparently in love with the rose-haired lady.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah, good time.
Well, thank you for the engagement, Mr.
What is he saying? I can't see.
Says, I love you, rose-haired lady. Rose-haired lady, response me. Rose-haired lady, me, my message, read me. Rose-haired lady, kiss me. Hey, look at me. We're going to ban and delete that user, but I love to celebrate trolls.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm feeling a little left out because
my troll was first. Then
yours is next.
Now Melanie's had one. So like I need a troll now, please and thank you. I guess my blue hair is just not as polarizing.
It's okay. Recently on my TikTok lives, I've been getting people that come in and say, born female. So I guess they're trying to make me feel bad about, and I look right at them. I say, unfortunately, because you know, what I really try and do every day with my makeup is look like a drag queen. So unfortunately I am born female. That usually shuts them up, takes away their power.
Oh man. I love that. If anybody's new to us, we teach trolls a little differently. We teach that trolls are a good thing. It means you're saying something, or in our case, I guess just showing up polarizing enough because nobody's even commenting on the things that y'all have been saying. They're just instantly commenting on how you look. But it does mean that you're doing something. You're showing up, you're saying something, you're being polarizing enough that you're creating trolls. Okay. Which means on the flip side, even if they're not saying anything, you're creating raving fans, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times the raving fans, because they are good humans, are not usually going to say anything. So several takeaways from that. Trolls are good. Good people aren't usually popping their mouth off at every single thing you do. So they're usually quiet. Okay. You're not going to know they're there most of the time. And 3, if you are a good human who is stalking somebody ethically, comment occasionally. Because, like,
Yeah.
creators need to know that not everybody's a troll.
Do you know,
throw an emoji. Like, I do blue heart.
And like Melanie said, we take their power away.
Yeah.
We take their power away. We might engage you for a second to take your power away, and then we move on, and we really take your power away.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you have people from your past life,
you know, my favorite word, we leverage your
leverage
comments.
it.
We
Leverage it.
That's my favorite word, by the way. We leverage your comments to teach, to educate, to promote, to do more of what we're already doing that you hate.
Yeah.
And then we take your power away. So thank you for trolling us and helping us do more of what we're already doing.
I tell you what, engagement is king in my book, or queen, because she's the one that really rules the things. And I last week blocked 2 specific people from my past life from my Instagram stories from seeing them. Like I didn't block, they can't see my stories anymore because they watched every single one and never liked it or commented or anything. And engagement on Instagram is very important. If you have 2,000 followers, but 1,000 of them are engaging, you're going to do better than somebody with 10,000 followers that only have 2 people engaging. So with Instagram, think about that when you're thinking about your numbers. And I made it so that they can't see my Instagram stories anymore. And not only are my Instagram stories performing better now, but I physically have more energy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And if you're watching now, you know who you are.
Now you know why you can't see my stories anymore.
Oh man, that is freaking awesome. This is what it's like when you live in positivity and you have amazing partners that like, you'll see how fast we all responded the exact same way. We're like, ooh, a troll.
And the thing is, we saw it at the same time, both times, because we were so engrossed and we're like, what is all of this over here on this side? And I'm like,
what are all these little comments popping up over here? Like, you could see us kind of at the same time. I know Melanie's on her phone, so she doesn't get them quite the same way we do. But me and Victoria were both like, hi, welcome, troll. Yeah. Welcome. Right. Good times. Oh man, I love that. I love that. I remembered something else I was gonna mention too, and like how toxic stuff shows up the wrong way. So I'd love to like get Victoria's thoughts on this. You were mentioning earlier some stats around like employees that are engaged versus disengaged versus like actively sabotaging the company. What did most of us think engaged looks like? Because I'm going to tell you, the first thing that comes to mind for me is very toxic. Like, an engaged employee is one who's working overtime, who's coming in on weekends, who's answering my messages late at night, who's like, that's what we traditionally think of as engaged, because that's what our employers expected from us, from a high performing employee, to go above and beyond. What would you like in a healthy business that is operating the right way? What does an engaged employee look like?
I say an engaged employee is an employee who really is passionate about your core mission, your vision, your values. That's why we start there. So you hire the right people to begin with. Because if there's a misalignment with that, when there's something comes up and they think things should be handled, they don't value, let's say one of my core values is integrity. And if that's not one of their values, you got a problem. You have a problem because when an issue arises, they don't say anything about doing anything that is going to sabotage the company, which means it sabotage you and all of that stuff. So
can we give an example? Like, what would that look like? Like a company misaligned with the mission. Or an employee misaligned with the mission. Let's say, okay, so let's do this. Let's give an example of like, let's imagine a health food brand, right? They make really healthy foods. It's like gluten-free, like all of their stuff is specialty diet, specialty, healthy, all the things. And they hire an employee, and that employee thinks that all the health food stuff is propaganda garbage. Right? So like that would be an example, right? They're not going to... How would that show up inside the company?
They're just there for a job, but they might be very good at a particular skill set. But they can't be passionate about it, which means they can't be engaged.
Yeah. Imagine that hires your marketer, the person doing your social media. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Melanie's face right there. Right there. That face.
like even with me, I would not take on a client because again, I'm so high touch and low volume. I wouldn't take on a client that I wasn't passionate about what they were doing because I knew when I was bringing my team, my team was already set because that was the values and everything. So when we took on a client, my team appreciated it so much that I would say, you know what? Even if I could get my team on board, I would go to them and say, this is a project. What do you think? I never told them that I wasn't on board with it personally, but if they wanted it, I would have done it for them. Right.
Yeah.
I would have taken the project and they were like, no, like, this is not what we do. I don't feel it. They were able to see that it wasn't that it was bad. It was just not something we were passionate about.
Yeah. Well,
It wasn't a bad thing.
In that health food example, it was so freaking obvious, right? We're like, if you're a health food company and this person doesn't believe in health food, duh, why would you hire them, right? Like we have that immediate reaction that we can see it. But how many companies don't know that they're a health food company, right? Like they don't know what they are. They don't know what they specialize in. They don't know what this is when Victoria's talking mission, vision, values. It's really easy to recognize in something like a company making health food products. But it's a lot harder when you're talking about like a coaching business or an agency or you still need to have something as polarizing as health food products so that you can evaluate your staff against your mission, vision, values.
Right.
Right. So it's like it was super easy in that example that I gave, but in a more complicated business, it's not always so clear cut. And you need to make it as clear cut as you can. Right. Yeah, this is one of the things that I'm teaching in business design is how to design a business that has a focus that is so clear in what you're doing and in how you're doing it. Right. Health food company. It's not just what, like we're trying to help people eat healthier. It's how we're producing health food products. Right. So being super clear on what it is you're trying to do, who you're trying to do it for, and what it is that you're actually trying to do, and being able to evaluate your employees to make sure that they agree that these are things that need to happen. This is
you're writing your job description to attract the people that care about that stuff at a level that you're passionate about it on.
Yeah. Well, and you see it over time. Typically people start and they're passionate, and then throughout their time with you, if they're not getting enough accolades, if they're not getting enough support, if they're not getting all these things, then they're naturally checking out more and more and more. And whether they check out to the degree of sabotage or they just check out to the degree of they're actively looking for another job while they're on your dime, whatever it is, because it happens to different degrees. But like we see it all the time with the go-getter, 100% giver, and you lean on them and you lean on them. And the most that you're giving them is a big pat on the back and a thank you and not a bonus or not a this or not a that. That person burns out and turns into a disgruntled employee.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see people setting healthy boundaries. And I'll admit, I have hired a few employees that will set these boundaries with me. They will say, I'm not available on weekends. I'm not available after like 7 p.m. I'm not like whatever. And my immediate reaction is kind of like, ugh. But then I have to think about it. And I'm like, no, that's actually a good thing, because that means that I'm not going to have to make sure that they have healthy boundaries, right? Like I'm not going to have to, like I've had a lot of employees that I have to say, like, I might message you at 8 or 9 o'clock at night in Slack because that's when my brain's working, but I'm not expecting you to answer. Quit answering. Like, why are you answering? Right? Yeah. Like you should be off. You should be in sleep. Like you're at 5 a.m., baby. Why are you answering me at 10 p.m.? Yeah. Like your notification should be off. Yeah. Right. So I started having to do things like schedule messages so that I can still send it when it's in my brain, but it'll get to them in the morning when they're awake. Like I had to protect their boundaries. Right. So when we see employees setting and enforcing healthy boundaries, I think that's a good thing. And I think we should be encouraging it. We're not trying to intrude on all their off time. They are not entrepreneurs. They are they're not answering messages while they're eating dinner with their families. And quite frankly, neither should you.
If they don't own part of your company, you don't need to be messaging them after hours. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to give them an ownership stake in your company and treat them like an owner, cool. But even then, you're setting a standard that you shouldn't even be setting for yourself.
Yeah.
Like you should clock out.
The first part in leading is leading yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the questions I like asking is, would you want to work for you?
Yeah.
Would you want to work for you? And then you're like,
yeah.
Now that I have Victoria helping with the people, yes.
Yeah.
But you know, when they're like, wait a minute, no, I don't want to work for me. And I'm like, if you don't want to work for you, why should somebody else want to work for you? Because you know how you are as a leader. You're in your own head. You know that at best, the ones that do care know that I'm an overachiever. I work so hard. I do all of this stuff, and I'm going to expect, and I'm going to be telling people what I'm going to be cracking. You don't want that for yourself.
No.
But you expect your employees to show up and perform and do all of this and bring value to the company and give you an ROI and all of that and love what they do, working for the person that you don't even want to work for, which is you.
Yeah.
And your benefits package is not a reason to work for somebody.
Yeah.
Just by the way, it's like the same thing that we hear and we've been taught in a marketing world, right? That you need to focus on the benefits and not the actual product, right? Like what do they get as a result of what they buy, not what are the features of the product, right? If you just sit here and talk about all the features, you're not going to convince someone to buy. Same kind of thing with an employee, right? Your benefits package, it's not the reason someone would enjoy working with you.
Yeah.
Unlimited time off, coffee in the break room. These are not things, right? It matters when they're looking at like you and someone else, and you guys you have a better benefits package. That's going to skew the high performers in your favor, but the culture is what's going to keep them.
Yeah, the culture is the most important part, because the thing is, everybody wants the best talent.
Yeah,
and forget that this talent has choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're humans.
It's like everybody wants the same people you want. They have their pick of where to go. So you have two choices. You can either create the environment, and I don't care if they know how to do the job. You still have to have training and onboarding. That's part of the environment. I don't care if they've been doing it at Google or another company. When they come to your company, it's different. They need training. They need onboarding. They need to be acclimated to your environment and the way you do things. And then here's another blind spot. There's like, oh, I hired this person. They have 20 years experience doing this. Just go in there and start doing it. Did we not have this conversation, Christina?
Yep. Oh, and here's a way that you can tell, right? If you need onboarding in your company, if you think you don't, because it's a standard job, it's a social media marketer, it's an email, it's a standard job, and you think, I don't need a lot of onboarding because it's standard. If your marketing, if your sales says we do it different, you need onboarding.
Yeah.
Right? If you purposely designed your stuff to do it differently in any way, shape, form, or fashion so that you could stand out and be different from your competitors, you need onboarding. Your employees need to know how it's done in your business, because it's not done the same as the 100 other businesses just like you.
And even the conversation of
you still need it. That should just be standard across the board. You should not. It's not a gift.
It was a trick question, Victoria, because everybody does it different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody prides themselves on doing it different. The actual service may be the same. Imagine you install roofs. There's a standard to how you install roofs. Roofs get installed the same way all the time based on the type of roof and right? Like there's standards to this. It's a very consistent job. But you're still, as a roofer, I guarantee you, in your marketing or in your sales, you're talking about how you do it differently. You're talking about the things your competitors do wrong. You're talking about how you have decided that you're going to manage the clients differently. Like we do roofs in one day so that you're minimize the damage on your stuff. We clean up all the debris. We do this. We do that. Yeah. If you are not, I would be very, very stinking surprised if you're not saying that you do something different. Something is different, which means that employee cannot possibly come in knowing how to work for you. They know how to install a roof, but they don't know what you do differently.
And then you turn around, the business, everything is in your head, and you say, oh, they're not working out. They don't know how to do it. I thought I hired somebody who was an expert in this, that, and the other, but they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to do it the way that you want it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like a roofing example, maybe you pride yourself on not just cleaning up all of the old shingles, but also fixing anything that was damaged, right? Like you're going to make sure that you're trimming any broken bushes that they fell on, or like
I actually got a new roof a couple of years ago because of a hurricane. And the roofer that I went with said that they picked up all the nails so that your animals would be fine. And they had metal detectors and magnets. So when they were done, there would not be a single nail left outside your house. It wasn't true, but it sold me.
Well, see, and there you go. That's the difference. That is a perfect example, because what do you want to bet? There was no onboarding. There was no quality control. There was no processes. There was no employees were not taught that as a company, we have decided we will be running metal detectors around at the end of every job.
Yeah.
It's a very simple process, not super complicated, made a lot of sense to the management, helped you differentiate your company from your competitors, became a selling point that you use in marketing and sales. But then it didn't get delivered on because the employees weren't taught
in the onboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was probably a lack of onboarding and also a lack of quality checking, quality assurance that we have said.
Because there's probably no processes, you know.
Well, you got to know about yourself too. I have PDA autism. I don't like being told what to do. So when I'm managing people and asking them to do things and telling them the processes, I'm not trying to use every detail and every step under the sun, because I don't like that. Because to me, it feels like you're assuming I don't know my head from my ass. But some people want every single step written out. So you really have to know who you are and what, ticks you off and what makes you really excited, and understand how that's going to translate into your SOPs and how you train people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you can see this, like this perfect little roofing example. I love this. I love this example because it's so easy to understand. And you can see how each of our specialties has evolved to help people avoid that problem. Right? Because it's like, as a business designer, I would encourage you to figure out how to differentiate yourself. Magnets and picking up the roofing nails, knowing that that's an issue in your industry. It's a relatively easy solve. Very simple steps, very simple equipment. Makes a lot of sense in business design. And I would say that you would put that in all of your processes. And then Victoria is like, oh, well, we need to onboard the team, and we need to have stuff in place to make sure the team is doing what they should be doing, and like evaluating it and checking in with the clients and all of that kind of stuff. And then from a mindset perspective, I mean, Melanie's coming at it and being like, I would imagine as a leader, you have to say, like, this is what's important to you. This is something that we care about with our clients. We know that our clients have dogs. We know that our clients have pets, kids, that kind of stuff, and we want them to be safe. And you're going to make sure that this is important to you, and it's communicated in your mission, and it's showing up in your business, and it's showing up in your life. Right? Did I do a good job with you too? Did I guess that correctly?
Yeah. I didn't even think about the kid part of it. Yeah.
Kids will be fine, but those dogs.
Yeah, exactly. When you said that with the animals, and I was just like, oh, forget the humans and the kids and all of that.
Well, the kids are older now too. So to put that into perspective, I mean, 2 years ago, the kids were like, what? They're over 10 at least. I can't math in my head.
They're old. They're like 14 and 15, almost 16 right now. They're old, but they were young when we got the new roof. It was the year of Hurricane Irma. That's what it was. She took our roof off. So,
yeah,
but no, I mean,
you weren't dealing with like toddlers who are going to go eat a nail.
No. I was dealing with kids that didn't want to go play outside. They wanted to be on their tablet. So, that sort of thing.
So naturally the animals.
Yeah. They're always outside. That's where they have to go potty. That's where they have to exist. The children, I wanted them to exist outside. They didn't want it.
Yeah.
Different time.
Okay, so strategies for boosting employee happiness. One is, setting them up for success.
Yeah.
Setting them up for success. That means making sure you craft your job descriptions around the flow state of that person, and then putting them in jobs where they get to spend most of the time in their flow state. In the other, let's say 75, 80% of time, they're in flow.
Which means you're not hiring a jack of all trades.
Which means you're not. And I watched it. One of my favorite side activities is reading job descriptions and looking at them like, this person, they're setting them up.
Oh, I know. I want to see you do a whole series of just tearing down job descriptions.
I just look at them and I'm just like, they want the person who is visionary and highly visionary and creative, and then extreme attention to detail. Good luck, buddy.
Doesn't exist. I'm proof. Doesn't exist.
Good luck. You're looking for a unicorn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
want
shouldn't
that
be hiring
detail, but you
unicorns.
also want this high visual visionary thinking, and you want them to be in the details, checking links and all of that stuff. Like it really ain't gonna happen. It's
Not possible.
really not. And then if they are, that person is not coming to work for you.
Yeah.
They're probably trying to launch their own business, and they might be working
They
for
are
you while they
already
save up
probably
money.
running circles around you already. So putting them on their team, these people are not people that could be put on a team. So
don't be afraid of being specific either. J-Lo will not hire a Virgo dancer. So she'll have all of her dancers come in and they'll all go and they'll do their thing. And then she'll have one of her people ask, anybody born from this day to this day, the Virgo dates. And if they say yes, those people are told they can leave. So you can be specific about who you need in what role. Don't be afraid to be specific.
As long as you follow guidelines, legal requirements. There's questions you're not allowed to ask. There's things you're not allowed to specify. Again, with processes and systems, right? Because if you don't have processes and systems for hiring and onboarding employees, you or managers that work for you are liable to say dumb things and to ask questions that you are not allowed to ask. You are not allowed to ask questions around like if they are married, if they have kids. Like these things might come up in casual conversation.
Yeah.
But when you're hiring someone, you're not allowed to ask because you can't make a hiring decision based on a protected class.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just say I'm not going to hire someone because they have 6 kids. Right? You can't say that. You can't do that legally, which means you can't ask questions that would give you that knowledge. Because even if you choose not to hire them for all the right reasons, right? Like you might choose not to hire somebody because they just don't meet the qualifications for the job.
Yeah.
But if you asked about their children and then you choose not to hire them, they could say that it's because they said they had 6 kids and you discriminated against them. So be specific, but within the realm of what is safe and legal to ask to protect yourself and your business. Like you really have to know what that is. That's why you need those systems for these are the questions that we're going to ask. This is how we're going to conduct the interviews. This is what we're going to collect. This is how we make our hiring decisions. This is what we're looking for. If you don't have that, you have no safety net, right? So that same example I just mentioned a second ago, if that person accidentally brought up that they had kids, but you did not ask, and you have well-documented procedures, you have that these are the questions that we ask. This is the recording of the interview. We only ask these questions. This is how we make our hiring decisions. Based on how we make our hiring decisions, this person was not qualified. And so you have that documentation, that process that states that, no, this is how we do business here. We've documented, we've recorded, we've done all these things. So when they try and say, it's because I mentioned I have 6 kids. No, this is how we made the decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those things are incredibly important to protect yourself legally, financially, and just to be a freaking good human. You shouldn't be making hiring decisions based on that anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And some of your best employees, it's discriminatory at best, but the employee happiness and fulfillment comes and it's about them.
Yeah.
Getting them in roles, designing the roles around their flow state. And if they're doing anything out, it's a zone of competency, but it might not be flow, but it's something that they can do. They can do it fairly easily, even if they don't know how to do it yet. It really fits within that zone, which is why we do some testing beforehand. And we can look at what roles if you don't know, what roles will actually complement. These are the things that would light them up. And then you talk to them. What are the things that...
Isn't it amazing how talk to humans is really one of the biggest solutions for almost any business problem, that you need to talk to humans?
Yeah.
And people who don't like talking to humans assume other people don't like talking to humans.
Yeah.
It's like people who hate sales. They assume that other people, like when Ryan at TNC, he was just like, and we don't want to talk to people. And I'm like, hello,
I'll talk to him.
And he was like, you're weird, literally at TNC. And I'm like, no, I'm not weird. I like to talk to people. You're weird because you don't like to talk to people and you expect people to give you money.
Yeah.
Crazy how people are wired differently.
And it's like, you've been in business that long and you think that and nobody besides you, you might not, because you're an
See,
introvert.
Victoria's in her flow state. She didn't even catch our joke.
I'm like, I get on my soapbox, but when you tell how many thousands of people that they're weird because they want to talk to people, well, a lot of people don't want to talk to people. It's like the sales thing. People are like, oh, no one likes sales. There are a lot of people who love sales.
I like sales.
Huh?
I like it.
Some people like it. Some people love it. Like cold calling. Nobody likes cold calling. Some people love cold calling.
Yeah. Oh no, I've got a person that I interviewed that did a whole book on cold calling. He systemized it. He professionalized it. I would have never in a million years considered cold calling any type of viable strategy for an ethical entrepreneur until I saw his system. And it's like, you've cracked the nut on that, haven't you? Ethical cold calling. He's cracked the nut on ethical cold calling. Which I didn't think was even doable. But when you have someone in their flow state, when you have someone who's passionate and they're doing what they like doing, you see them like Victoria, everything moves faster.
Yeah.
Right. Victoria is normally a pretty slow spoken individual. She's very mild. She's usually pretty just kind of even keeled.
She's intentional.
There you go. Very intentional. But when she's in her flow state, when she's excited and lit up by something, her speech, whatever that is, how fast she talks, did that not just double, triple over the last 15, 20 minutes? There, she's like, I don't think I've ever seen her talk that fast. Yeah. I'm here for it. I like it. That's what you want, though. Can you imagine, when she first started, I've heard a lot of people talk about the entrepreneurial flow state, but I had not really considered, and I felt so stupid when I had this aha moment with her a year or 2 years ago, that your employees could exist in that flow state.
Yeah.
And I immediately, as soon as she said that, I was like, can you imagine a team of humans? If you could plug 10 people into your company that were existing in their flow state, doing all the crap you hate doing. If you took everything you hate doing right now and you assigned it to a person that loved it and was living in their flow state, my business would be unstoppable.
Yeah. Unstoppable, because everybody is operating at their highest level, and they're just constantly trying to get
your business being done with that level of passion and excellence.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you do that? But
don't think about it. You just don't think about it. You're like, I hate doing this task and I just want to get another human to do it. Somebody else needs to do this and make it go away. And once it goes away, you just don't care anymore. Yeah. Right? You're like, I just don't. Right. But somebody else who loves editing video is going to do it better than me. Somebody who loves writing blog articles more than me is going to do it better than me. Somebody who loves doing social posts is going to do it better than me. Somebody like Melanie, who's passionate as hell about TikTok, is going to make better TikToks than me.
Yeah. I don't want to be on
every TikTok. Every time. I like writing books. I'll make a better book than Melanie would, except for the fact that I'll probably be writing Melanie's book.
I'll help.
But here's the thing. You'll both be in your flow states.
Yeah.
Yeah. She'll probably be making a bunch of TikToks, and then I'll turn her TikToks into a book.
Yeah. And it'll be done. And it'll be done with excellence. And it's going to be beneficial to the people. It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody had fun making it. Everybody's proud of the result too, right? So can you imagine that step? So there's some steps that need to happen for Melanie to produce her book. Victoria makes sure that there's the right person designing the cover, the right person doing the editorial. I like writing a book. I'm not the person to do the editorial.
Yeah.
I read really freaking fast and I have a hard time slowing down. So I don't catch all of the grammar mistakes and all of the title. I just don't. I'm not the person. It's can you imagine how amazing of an end result the book would be if we let Melanie film TikToks, which is in her flow state, to give us the content needed for the book? I take all that and I write it because I love doing the written stuff. And Victoria makes sure that the right person does the cover, does the editorial, gets it formatted for, production on Amazon, all that good stuff. How much better would that book be than if Melanie had to do it on her own?
Yeah.
Right? That's what it means to have
and
the right.
What prevents people from doing what they want is they see all the parts they don't want to do. And they go, well, if I'm going to have to figure that out, then I'm going to have to know it now. And it's like, no, it's a process. It's 1 through 10. And you're only supposed to know 1 when you start at 1. And then you're supposed to learn by the time you get to 10.
Yeah. And we want them to come in at 10. So it's really, it does. And then you want to pay them at a 1.
And if you're sitting here going, there is no way, so I'll segue us into the end here. If you're sitting here saying that there is no way you could make enough to hire the type of staff that you need or to bring in a fractional COO to help you do that, join the Neuro-Spicy.com. Because that's exactly what we're going to teach you to do. And you're going to have access to all three of us. So you can do that. We're going to teach you how to make the money that you need to make, how to get to 10K, 20K, 30K, 40K with you as your only employee. Months, 20, 30, 40K months with you as your only employee, maybe an assistant, maybe. Right. So that when it is time to hire, you already know how to tell that it's time to hire. You already know what you're hiring for. Your business is already designed where you're not trying to hire a jack of all trades. You know exactly what you're doing. You're keeping your employees in your flow state. You're keeping your clients getting the happy results. You're keeping yourself in a flow state. You're keeping your mindset functioning like you need it to function so that you can do what you need to do. We are looking at the whole human, at the whole business, at the whole entrepreneur, and helping you figure all of that out at one time. And I know Melanie reminded me this morning on campus next week, we're doing a Q&A party with the three of us. Right. So students on campus will get to come hang out. How long are we doing that for, Melanie? Like an hour, something like that? 2 hours?
Yeah. We'll be there for at least an hour.
Yeah. So it's a great time to join. So if you have been on the fence about joining, you're not sure what you're going to get, you want to make sure you're going to get access to us as soon as you come on campus, et cetera, right after next week's live show, we're heading over to campus and we're going to be doing a Q&A party. Campus means you're on camera if you want to be. You can ask questions, all that good stuff. So way more intimate experience than what you get here in our live show. So join the Academy. It's a great time to do it. We'll get you in over there. And you can come to our Q&A party as well as all of our, we have Q&A parties for each of us individually every single week anyway. So you can come and chat with us. You can chat with other students. You're going to get access to us in a group environment on campus. So Neuro-Spicy.com, drop the link on the screen. Head over there, join now, and we will see you guys next week for another episode of Wired Differently. I don't know what the topic is for next week. We'll figure that out. We'll post it. Make sure you subscribe. We'll tell you what it is. Bye, guys. Happy statues.